feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shrimp Tank. We come to you virtually from Seattle and the entire Pacific Northwest. Listen, if you want to learn how to start, grow, or run a successful business, you, my friend, are in the right place. This is where we say street smarts and book smarts collide. Hello again, everyone. I'm Dan Weedin, and I'm joined by my co-host, the incomparable Monica Blackwood. Our guest today is Bill Martin. Bill is the founder of Vet Tribe. As a founding member of Vet Tribe, a network of veterans, military spouses, mentors, and community members, Bill aims to empower veterans and build strong personal and professional relationships throughout every industry in and around the greater Kitsap area. His areas of expertise are wide and varied. We're going to talk about all of them, but some include transition assistance, training development, strategic planning, and team building. Bill also works to build quality professional networks that support individuals with disabilities, veterans, and military spouses while working at the heart of the workforce development team at Skookum Contract Services. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that as well. This is going to be a fun show. Bill, welcome. Thank you for being here. We'll be right with you. Everyone, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and of course, YouTube. You might say we are ubiquitous. Now, before we bring on Bill, Monica, hello, how are you? How are
Hey,
things
Dan.
going? You enjoying the spring so far?
Oh gosh, the spring is great. We've had some really nice days here in the Pac Northwest and then a lot of liquid sunshine still too, but that's typical for us.
There you go. Hey, listen, I've been meaning to talk with you. I mean,
Yeah.
I know we live in the same city and we might run into each other once in a while, but I've had something that's right up your alley. I want to get your 2 cents on it. I've had several clients, and it's not just in the Pacific Northwest. I've got clients in several states, but I've had several clients who are struggling to find the right staff members. Now, some of them are at what I would say kind of an entry level type of job. There's many of those, but there are others who are saying, I'm having trouble even since the pandemic, which is now 4 years, almost exactly, or pretty much exactly in the rearview mirror, still struggling with staffing. It seems to be an issue. You're in the staffing business. Is this
That
still
I
an
am.
issue?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I wish I could say it was still an issue, but it's not.
It's not.
It's not. There are so many people out there looking for work right now. And I'm really feeling like there's muscle memory, right? Our brains are muscles and employers use their brains a lot. And for the last, I don't know, 12 years, we've all been saying there's a shortage of workers. And yes, numerically, there is a shortage of workers, but I think employers just need to start searching differently. They need to start targeting differently. They need to start having conversations differently with those who are looking for work because they are out there. We are seeing numbers go up with our interviews and our applications coming through the door. It's great. And we are seeing employers be really slow to respond. We can't be slow anymore.
So let me
We've
ask you,
got to move.
okay, I'm glad I got you fired up. And Bill, we're going to get you. I promise we're not going to take time away from you. But help me out. If I'm hearing from folks that say we have want ads out there, that's not probably the right word anymore, but you know what I'm saying? We're
Yeah.
trying, but we're not even getting people knocking on the door. Could it be regional based? There be issues regarding that?
It could be regional based, but I talk to staffing CEOs across the country on a monthly basis, and they are all seeing numbers go up too. So
All right.
it's a matter of your recruiting strategy, and let's send them my way. I'm happy to
I will.
revisit their recruiting strategy because there are so many individuals out there that are looking for work.
Okay, well, I'm going to send them your way, but
Yeah.
enough of this. Enough of this. We got to talk to Bill Martin. Bill, I'm really intrigued by reading your bio and looking at what you've got on Facebook and LinkedIn for Vet Tribe. The staffing, I mean, this kind of falls into your line of work because you're very focused on helping veterans, I believe, and we're going to find out you are a veteran, and that's near and dear to your heart. You founded Vet Tribe. Two questions for you as we welcome you in. Number one is I'd like to get your thoughts on what Monica said and let me know what you're seeing as well. But I'm also interested, how did you start this? What's the genesis story of Vet Tribe?
Well, hey, first of all, thanks for having me on. I'm really happy to get the opportunity to be here and talk with you all. So to go along with what Monica was saying, I completely agree. We are seeing a nice uptick in people that are applying for positions. I do feel there are a lot of folks out there looking for work, and we do have to adjust our recruiting strategies and our sourcing strategies to kind of mold to what the potential employees are looking for, because I do feel there's kind of been a shift and it's now more employee centered as opposed to employer centered, maybe how it used to be. But when it comes to Vet Tribe, I transitioned out of the U.S. Navy after 22 years back in 2019. When I transitioned out, I felt there was maybe some gaps in the education that the military provides when you're going to find yourself a new career. I joined the military at 17, and I was 40 when I retired from the military, and I'd never written a resume, never done a job interview, never done any of that stuff. So the idea was to work with another gentleman that was a mentor to me. He was very well connected, and he's very smart about this stuff, and he helped guide me along this path. And I thought, what a great idea if we could just create a social platform in person that people, veterans, military spouses, soon to be transitioning military members, could come together, have a relaxed atmosphere, and just discuss all the things that didn't get discussed during the 3 to 5 days they talked about transition as you're getting out of the military.
So did you, when you were starting this and working with your mentor, did you like sit down and make a list of the things that were gaps in that training to kind of formulate what Vet Tribe is now, or did you just kind of brainstorm it after the fact and be like, oh, that would have been really nice?
Yeah, I actually think we were more of a shoot from the hip kind of group. We decided what is the most powerful tool when it comes to finding jobs, and I believe it's professional networking. There's some statistic where somewhere over 70% of jobs are found through professional networking, and I think that's massive. So we created this environment where military members, spouses, veterans, hiring managers, recruiters could all come together and just have that nice social atmosphere, and it relaxes people a little bit. And when you're 40 and you've never had a job interview or written a resume or talked to anyone about yourself, it was nice to be able to have a relaxed atmosphere to make it a little more comfortable.
So, Bill, my dad served 30 years in the Navy. I'm a bit older. He retired in the 70s. And so I grew up in Oak Harbor, which is a military town. And my recollection back then, and I can't believe it's like 50 years ago, back then was people who were coming out of the military, it didn't feel like they had the same challenges as today. It felt like, hey, you just served 20, 30 years in the military. You've got skills, we've got jobs. And it felt like it was, I don't want to say seamless because maybe my dad would have argued about that, but it felt like that to me. It doesn't seem that way. At what point do you think that changed?
I guess I would be maybe a little unsure about exactly when it changed. I would say that there is still some folks that can transition out very seamlessly. A lot of times their experience or they're working side by side with the contractors or the federal employees and it's a very easy transition for them. However, folks that maybe want to relocate, or folks that want to move into a different, different line of work, those transitions can be very challenging. And that's why we thought that professional networking is probably one of the strongest tools we have.
So I don't really have a follow-up question, but you just said something that kind of hit, because we're live and we're just kind of talking, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, my dad's next job came because he knew our next door neighbor and so maybe it's always been that way. And we got lucky, and maybe that's part of it. So really, I think what you're saying and what you've done with Vet Tribe is, it's all, more often than not, it's still who you know, right? It's having that professional network to help you to find that right fit. Am I correct? Am I saying that correctly?
I personally, I absolutely believe so. I really do think that if you can have that connection with someone that is maybe working in there, it just kind of helps to have that inside, inside help.
So my dad was Army, and was stationed overseas before I was born, actually, and came back. And when he exited, he went to school and went up to Western. I know you're a networking group and whatnot. Do you also talk about that route for people when they transition?
Absolutely. Kind of to go with your previous question of, did we plan it out, or did we kind of shoot from the hip? And, we were shooting from the hip, but we started the networking, and then we started to see, hey, some folks aren't ready to go directly right back into the workforce. They want to use their veterans benefits, their GI Bill, the VR&E program through the VA. To help them get back to employment. So we found a lot of good in bringing in colleges and universities. We have tons of support here from the local community. I think our last event, we had 4 or 5 colleges represented. So it was just a great way to, we have now opened it up to where we're doing a lot more than just professional networking. We're connecting folks with schools, and then even trying to connect them with folks that help with disability ratings, and all the other resources and services that are available for our veterans.
Bill, I don't know if this is a shift in the conversation, but it's, again, something I just heard you say that makes me think a little bit. I know I've heard there's some sort of research regarding, from a mental health standpoint, a lot of times veterans who have just exited, there can be a level of depression because they've been there 10 years, 20 years, whatever that case may be. That's been their life, maybe their identity. What do you see as far as, any issues around mental health and that same maybe very concerning transition to a new life? Can you speak to that?
Obviously, I'm not a mental health expert
Right.
in any way, shape, or form, but yes, I do believe it absolutely happens when you have that tight-knit camaraderie, or family, for lack of a better term. A lot of times we refer to each other as brother and sister, because you work side by side with these folks for years at a time, and you probably spend more time with them than hanging out with your brothers or sisters. Yes, I think there can be that disconnect, and it does happen with a lot of transitioning military members, and even military spouses, that are used to having that connection with other military spouses and families. So recently, I'd say maybe the last 6 months, we decided to the end of all of our flyers when we're advertising our events, to add just the word camaraderie. To, if you're just a veteran or a spouse or a military family member who just wants to, maybe come out and spend a few hours with some of your brothers and sisters because you've lost some of that connection. We're actively promoting that, to just kind of be a catch-all, to bring a whole bunch of great folks together, like-minded folks that want to help others, want to keep that, veteran spirit or that military spirit going. And I think overall, I would say it's fairly successful. And I think that we are very lucky to live in such a military rich community to have some great folks that are helping out.
That's great. So you mentioned that you've been doing this since 2019, and I know I was at the 5-year anniversary event in January for Vet Tribe. Um, what is it that has kept you going? What is it that's fueled you to keep moving with this effort? Because it's a lot of time and energy on your part. I know that.
Uh, yeah, it fills my cup is the best thing I can say is when I first transitioned out of the military, I think as Dan just stated, there was that loss of camaraderie and I wasn't, feeling it 100% with the first job I picked up outside of the military. So I wanted that opportunity to continue to give back. And I feel that the veteran community is a very small community and there is a lot of things that could be done to help better their situations as they are transitioning out because boot camp, I believe, is 2.5 months to transition in, and then they give you a 3 to 5 day course to transition out. It's a little more challenging than that. So, and then from the beginning, me and my mentor always stated if one person showed up and one person got some assistance and some help, and we helped them out, we would host every month.
Bill, I mean, that's an interesting fact about boot camp versus exiting now at the time frame on that. I had never thought about that. Hey, listen, this is, I can't believe how fast this is going. We have to take our first short break to hear from today's Spotlight sponsor. But when we come back with our guest, Bill Martin, for Hot or Not section of the show, we're going to talk about getting lost in translation. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank. Do you know where great people go to meet great companies? I do. It's West Sound Workforce. For 25 years, West Sound Workforce has been putting people to work, matching their skills and interests with positions employers are looking to fill right here in our own communities. Specializing in temp to hire, and direct hire placement services, West Sound Workforce is there to help job seekers looking to find that next position or next career step with no cost. Companies partner with West Sound Workforce to augment their recruitment strategies, whether to cover the shift of a vacationing employee of their own, having extra hands to make a special project happen, or searching for their next new team member. Visit our website at westsoundworkforce.com or check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound area and beyond. I'm Monica Blackwood, co-host, and our guest today is Bill Martin. We are going to talk about our next segment, Hot or Not.
Well, no, I know you've listened to our show, and you know Hot or Not is we're going to put you on the hot seat a little bit and ask you about some different thing. Could be business, could be life, who knows. You can tell us whether it's hot or not, and then why or why not. So I mentioned lost in translation. We all have our jargon depending on whatever industry you are, but I'm going to say this: hot or not, overcoming the translation jargon between what you had in the military and what you have in business.
It's hot. You have to do it. You have to translate. You have to find a way to, translate what you did into terms that other people are going to understand. If the veteran community is less than 1% of the general population, kind of hard to think they're going to understand everything you're talking about. So acronyms, we gotta translate those acronyms.
Right. I have seen some really interesting terms come across on resumes and like, what is that? But anyway, my question is, hot or not, supporting spouses and family?
Oh, 100% hot. Such a valuable asset military spouses and military family members are. Some people seem to get intimidated by the fact that, a military spouse may only be around for 3 years because that's a tour length, but the average employment across the country is right at 3 years as well. So I absolutely think we need to invest our time and effort into supporting military spouses.
Great. I know that several states have been working to create like reciprocal legislation for a lot of military spouses who might have credentials in other states. Is that hot or not? Vet Tribe being active in those efforts in Washington?
Hot. Again, we want to help support and translate benefits, certifications, all those things, trying to do that. There's some amazing internship programs now that are happening for military spouses where employers can hire them for up to 12 weeks and the employer doesn't pay for them. They get paid from an external entity, like a nice paid internship for them, and then you can hire them from there. Just so many amazing things we're doing, and hopefully it just keeps getting better and better.
So, Bill, you had mentioned something in our first segment about somebody being in the military and they may not have put together a resume or a cover letter or done an interview really in decades potentially and coming out. So I know you would say this is hot. I want to hear more about what Vet Tribe can help with. So I was going to say hot or not, interview skills and everything that goes around, because it's more, as you know, it's more than just the interview. In order to get that interview, you better probably have a pretty good resume and you probably have to have a good cover letter and all of that. Talk about what Vet Tribe can do when it comes to helping veterans pick those pieces up from where they never had to maybe do them before.
Excellent. I'm going to stick with hot. Yes, I think that's
Yes,
the best
I'm
answer
sure. I
here.
figured it was probably hot. Yeah.
So we have a nice group of folks now that I've kind of recruited to be part of the Vet Tribe organization and kind of help run it, keep it moving smoothly. And all of us have definitely done some work with resumes. I've become part of the National Resume Writing Association, just because I feel that is such an important piece when it comes to transitioning. You have to have that first piece. I realize a resume has a very small task, which is just to get you that phone call or just to get you that interview, but it's such an important piece to get you there. And then after that, we talk interview techniques, interview questioning, what it means to, when they say, do you have any questions? That's your turn to turn around and interview them back.
Yep.
And a lot of times, I personally had no idea that was even a thing. I didn't know that I was interviewing them as well. It took me some time to get there. So while we have these events that are in person once a month that, fill up with a lot of people, that's maybe not where we do some of this training, but then we schedule follow-up, phone calls, Zoom meetings, and then we can go over some of this and even do some mock interviews.
That's great. And I would argue that those meetings are great opportunities for people to practice in a more comfortable setting that's not titled as an interview. But anyway, hot or not, meeting in a brewery.
Hot. As the individual who schedules 95% of our events, we always wanted to support local small businesses. I also think sometimes when it is a little stressful and you're anxious about talking to a whole bunch of folks you don't know, sometimes having a pint or a cider or a glass of wine can really help take that off. And there's just some amazing small business owners around here that allow us to host at their breweries, with no fees, and we ask them what their slowest night of the week is, and we just try to bring in a ton of business on those slow nights. So that is a very hot for me.
I'm going to stay on kind of the interview thing because I just think it's fascinating to have this conversation because, and again, I have a limited background with, I remember with my dad and all of that. My observation is that a lot of folks coming out of the military can be, I don't want to say just modest or humble, but they don't necessarily seem to toot their own horns as much, or it's not something that when you're in the military that you're really actually, I think, I wasn't, but I don't think that's something that is done. But when you have to, and I again use the word, sell yourself and your experience and what you've accomplished, I'm assuming that the communication skills for that is something as part of the interview process. What are some of the challenges you've run into in helping veterans?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think that we in the military are taught that it's always about being a team effort. And, we did this as a team or as a division or an organization. So when an individual has to come out of the military or out of that group and just now be the individual, it's very hard to, talk about yourself, I did this or I did that. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges to overcome, especially from your senior leaders, because the leaders of the, in the military are taught that this is my department, this is my group, and we are doing this as a whole. So it is very challenging to pull that individualized, those statements out of there.
That makes, Simon Sinek and so many others, like, resonate even more, just because that's what they talk about, leaders eat last kind of thing and whatnot. But so Vet Tribe does some really fantastic things. I've seen it happen, with my own eyes, and I just love it and have a soft spot for the organization. And you have been around now, you've celebrated 5 years. What's next? What are you guys looking at? Do you have any ideas?
We are continuing to discuss this amongst the kind of the leadership of Vet Tribe. And I think some of the ways we want to go is, just continue growing. I recall before the pandemic, we had about 100 folks show up to one event, and that was mind blowing. And we had folks, hiring managers coming over from all the major corporations in Seattle. We lost a lot of traction during the pandemic. But we are now back up to a little over, half that size at our events now. So the idea is to continue growing. And then now even shifting a little bit more to, education with what kind of resources, what kind of services are available. There are so many services, so many resources available, just even local in the, the Pac Northwest or Puget Sound area. So the idea is to share as many of these resources as we can. Talk more about it, promote it, and just make sure that everyone knows what resources are available out there. And at the same time, we're going to continue to do this professional networking. We're going to continue to the camaraderie piece. We're going to continue connecting folks with hiring managers, and then hopefully just continue to, blossom that way so that our, military members in Kitsap and surrounding areas just have that place to go to when they need a hand up.
Bill, you're a nonprofit organization. Talk about how you grow revenue, because all of these programs, everything that you're doing requires money, right? And so how are you getting the word out? How are you bringing in donations and sponsorships, things like that?
Luckily, almost everyone that works with us and, brings money to the table, things like that, have all been part of these events in the past. We have, promoted through social media is our biggest way of going. We're all over LinkedIn and Facebook. And then we find a lot of the, niche groups on Facebook, whether they're based on locality or serving veterans or military spouses, things of that nature. That's how we try to spread the word. And then as folks come in and become part of the events, most of them have come up to us and said, hey, what can I do to be a part of this? I've got, my organization has money. How can we support? How can we sponsor? Things of that nature. So I believe that our hard work and working together with the community has really helped benefit us the most.
I have a little bit of a technical question because I don't know this side. You talk about a group that you work with, your leadership team for Vet Tribe. How many people are on that leadership team? Is it like a board that you have or what?
We have just about 5 folks that we go to, like it's like a council, right? Sometimes I have learned a million times over that it's not about what I know. It's about what the tribe knows. And if we can, source each other and, ask questions and bounce things off each other, it's just so much more successful, because I like to think I have good ideas most of the time. My spouse may not agree all the time, but having other people to bounce your ideas off is just the best way to go about things. And yeah, so creating that board type is definitely the way to go.
Well, I can't believe, again, I almost lost track of time. We have to take our second and final break to hear from our sponsors. But when we come back with our guest, Bill Martin, for our famous Plead the Fifth section of the show, Bill, I'm going to take him and jump in the DeLorean. We're going to do a little time travel and see what he has to say. Don't walk away. We'll be right back with more of the Shrimp Tank. And Plead the Fifth is brought to you by our corporate sponsors, Ideal Life 360, Cornerstone Financial, First Underwriters Insurance, BC Fitness Studio, and Port Ludlow Resort. Please visit our website at shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle to learn more about these terrific companies. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank, where we interview the best and brightest CEOs and business thought leaders in the greater Puget Sound region and beyond. I'm co-host Monica Blackwood, and we are with Bill Martin, our guest today. This segment is Plead the Fifth.
So Plead the Fifth, Bill, as you know, is we're going to turn up the heat a little bit. We might ask you some fun, but maybe awkward questions. I don't know. You can plead the fifth once, but only once. But you don't seem like a plead the fifth kind of guy. We'll find out. We'll find out. So I mentioned the DeLorean. One of my favorite questions, Bill, is to have people go back to their 18-year-old self and what advice would they give? I don't want to go back that far. I want to go back to when you were exiting. Was it the Navy you were in?
Yes, sir.
You're exiting the Navy. Bill Martin today, a vet tribe, gets to meet Bill Martin exiting the Navy. What, now that you know, what do you wish you would have been able to say to yourself, however many years ago that was? What advice would you give?
It's easy. Follow your heart and not the money. I think I took my first post-military job based on the pay. And I no longer work there because I found something that's more towards filling my cup, towards my priorities, towards helping others, supporting others. So absolutely, take the time to figure out what your priorities are, stack them appropriately, and then follow your priorities.
Really quick follow-up, Monica. I love that.
Yeah.
And that might seem to be scary to somebody who is, you can say that from your experience now, but I've got to believe that that's easier said than done, correct?
Oh, very much. It was terrifying. I thought money was going to be a huge challenge. I thought I didn't know how I was going to, live and support my family the way, or keep them, in the lifestyle they've become accustomed to. But it's kind of amazing how much you can do. There's a lot more flexibility out there than maybe we think.
So I'm thinking kind of along these lines. I'm wondering if, money is the first thing to, obviously for security and safety of yourself and your loved one that, that people jump to when they are thinking about getting a new job and whatnot. I'm just wondering if veteran or individuals who are transitioning into civilian life out of military, is there much in the way of conscious thought about how much their life is going to change when they move? Or is it like, oh, okay, I've got the funding set, so life is gonna be okay, and not really dive into the rest of it? Is there much prep for that or no?
I think that's a great question. I think that obviously I believe everyone's going to be a little bit different.
Sure.
Some people are going to be a little more prepared. We work with folks that are 2 years from getting out and they're already starting to build their network. They're, building their priority lists. They're saving tons of money. And then there's folks that show up and they're like, oh, I get out next week and I don't know how to spell resume. So you definitely see a lot of different perspectives, but I do think that sometimes we do think about the money first and the money only. And then we're like, okay, I can figure everything out. A very common answer from a veteran is, I don't know, I can do anything, when you ask them what they want to do after their military careers. And then you have to kind of start talking through, have a longer conversation about, yes, I know you can do anything. Like, and you ask them silly questions. Well, you want to work at McDonald's? No. Okay, well, then maybe you don't want to do anything. And, we try to dig into that.
So, Bill, we've been talking a lot about from the veteran side. I want to do a little plead the fifth on the other end. Plead the fifth. What is the biggest mistake employers are making when it comes to recruiting, hiring, and even retaining veterans?
That's a great question. I definitely don't want to plead the fifth on that. This is a good one.
Okay.
I think we've kind of talked about it a little bit earlier with some people overlooking military spouses due to the people think that their longevity, of only being able to work for possibly 3 years or less, so overlooking those folks. And then Monica brought it up when they move from one side of the country to the other, some of the credentials that they earned on, in their East Coast duty station no longer transfer out here. So how do we find a way to break past that and get past that and work to get these folks hired? The other thing is, I think businesses are very focused on costs right now with respect to how expensive things are getting and inflation. And they're putting the employees at the bottom of that list sometimes. And I think that you have to focus on taking care of your employees first and foremost, or else they're going to leave the second someone else offers them $1 more an hour.
Great. So you've talked a lot about filling your cup, and I've mentioned that, Vet Tribe takes a lot of time and energy, and it's fantastic. Tell me, what would you do for a treat yourself day if it's just you?
Ooh,
Or maybe
man.
you want to take two friends or whatever, two people. What would you do?
Treat myself day. I think I'm gonna go play a good round of golf, maybe on a really nice golf course. I do enjoy that as much as maybe towards the end, it's not as relaxing as the way it starts because it's a stressful game. And then maybe go sit out by the water somewhere nice water view, and have a tasty beverage. That'd be a great treat myself day.
Well, Bill, I'm a golfer. I'm an avid golfer, so we may have to make that work out some way. We're also an entrepreneur focused podcast. So I just popped into my head. We've been talking about veterans coming out and finding jobs. What's your experience or what's your conversation like with a veteran who might say, I'd like to start my own business. Maybe I've saved enough money that I feel comfortable, at least at the outset and in living, but I have ideas, or I have a passion, or I have a hobby, or I have something that I'd like to turn into business. Do you have those types of conversations?
Yes, absolutely. Luckily, the military, there are some nonprofit organizations and other resources that are available for veterans that they can help fund veteran entrepreneurship. There are groups even over in Seattle that get together on a monthly basis to talk about entrepreneurship and to help support folks. There's definitely lots of resources out there. We have local connections that have transitioned out of the military and started their own food truck. So just I go back to those folks and ask them questions all the time about it. And they're extremely helpful in giving me answers. And they've even broke down like the entire costs for me so I could share it with other veterans who were thinking along the same lines. So I guess for me, it all comes back to that network, just having and knowing the people to talk to and being able to send those people and point them in the right direction.
So one last question, that's really kind of about the industry or about the area that you're in with Vet Tribe. What do you like most about working with veterans or those transitioning, and what would you like to change?
I think I like working with veterans just because we have that similar background. Most of us join the military for just, it's like one of several reasons. One, to get away from your parents. Two, I couldn't find a good job, so I needed a, secure, steady income. Or it's not really a thing anymore, but back in the old days, it was you messed up and they gave you the option of joining the military or going to jail. So that's not all the reasons, but that's a nice generalized thing there. I love being able to work with folks that have that same background. And I know that a lot of these folks, as they are transitioning, just they don't really know what they're doing. And that seems a little disappointing to me. And I don't want them to just be thrown out into the job world without a clue. So just trying to be there to help them. And I guess if I could change anything, I really wish that we could do a better job of retention in the military. That is struggling right now. They're struggling to recruit. They're struggling to keep people. It's just a tough time for it. I wish that they would evolve a little bit and to keep more folks in, because I think that'll set up individuals better for when they come out. If they can do the retirement thing around, their late 30s, early 40s, it just kind of sets you up for success moving forward for the rest of your career.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I can't believe we are almost at the end of our time, Bill. Thank you so much for being a guest here on our Shrimp Tank podcast. For listeners who want to get in touch with you to learn more about Vet Tribe or about you, how can they get more information?
The best ways to get a hold of us are via LinkedIn. So if you look up Vet Tribe on LinkedIn, you will find us. If you look up Vet Tribe on Facebook, you will find our business. You will also find a page where we can share resources and information. And then through email, which is info@vettribe.org.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Bill. Everyone, make sure you check out all of the replays on shrimptankpodcast.com/Seattle and wherever you get your podcast, whether it's iHeart, Apple, Google, not Google.
Easy for you,
Google.
easy for you to say, right?
Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, any of them, Please follow us on our show's social media pages on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Well, Bill, it's been great having you. I've enjoyed meeting you, and I'm serious we'll get out and play some golf. The weather is getting nicer. We'll go do that and maybe have a beverage afterwards as well. Monica, as always, great to see you. Everyone, do exactly what Monica says. Follow us on all our social media pages. Our next show will be on Wednesday, April 24th. We have our actually a surprise. Michelle Bomberger and I have a topic that we're going to talk about. I'll share more about that as in the coming weeks, but looking forward to talking with Michelle about it. In the meantime, be safe, be well, and be prosperous, because until next week, the shrimp is back in the tank. So long.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp